So, after experiencing the slow motion train wreck that is Star Wars for the past couple of weeks, I figured a cinematic palate cleanser was in order. Something that was actually fun, well made, entertaining, and didn't make me question the futility of my own existence. And that thing turned out to be Bad Boys Ride or Die, the fourth movie in the long running franchise, and the second installment of the series since it returned after an almost 20-year hiatus. Damn man, Bad Boys has been going even longer than the Mission Impossible films. Anyway, after a string of potential summer blockbusters that ended up being disappointing flops, there were a lot of questions swirling around this flick. Could it finally turn the tide and deliver a genuine hit that was so badly needed? Did a franchise spanning 4 decades have enough gas left in the tank to stir audience interest? How would the box office react to a movie headlined by Will Smith after that incident? And most importantly, would it actually be any good? Well, I'll answer the last question first by saying that yes, it is a good film, delivering exactly the kind of explosive, wisecracking, flamboyantly choreographed adventure that you'd expect from this series, coupled with the family melodrama and good-natured angst of two leads who know they're getting a bit too old for this stuff, but can still pull it off when it counts. Bad Boys 4 is in many ways a neat little throwback to a different time in Hollywood, when guys like Michael Bay and Jerry Bruckheimer ruled the summer box office with big, bombastic, unapologetically macho action flicks that knew their audience and gave them exactly what they wanted in spades. Is it groundbreaking stuff that's going to redefine your understanding of the genre and make you see life in a completely different way? No, but it doesn't need to be. All it needs to do is keep you entertained and engaged for a couple of hours. And well, that's exactly what it did for me. The movie once again stars Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as Mike and Marcus, a pair of police detectives who get involved in all kinds of shady business from drug cartels to corrupt cops to ruthless government agencies. In this case though, the action kicks off when the two men discover that their former captain has been implicated in a huge drug smuggling operation before he was killed in the previous movie. It turns out that Captain Howard was prepared for this though, and recorded a video message before his death warning the boys of corruption inside the department and giving them a cryptic clue that should lead them to the evidence that will clear his name. Wow, lucky he had the foresight to set all this stuff in advance, otherwise we wouldn't even have a movie. Anyway, the boys are determined to clear his name and set out to recover the evidence, which leads them to Mike's estranged son Armando, who's now being held in prison. Unfortunately, the bad guys are one step ahead of them, and before you know it, all 3 men are forced to go on the run as wanted fugitives. Pretty soon they're being hunted by the DEA, the US Marshals, the police, the army, the navy, and the fucking 9 ringwraiths of Sauron. But can they put aside their distrust of their former enemy to stay one step ahead of their pursuers and expose a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of US government? I think you know the answer. Like I said earlier, there's nothing particularly crazy about the storyline for this movie, which incorporates all the familiar elements that fans of the series have pretty much come to expect by now. The boys going rogue and having to rely on a few trusted friends to help them out, lots of corruption and conspiracies to unmask, a bit of personal conflict, and some family drama back home to balance out the action. It's all tried and tested stuff, and it's perfectly serviceable as a framework for another Bad Boys adventure. I mean, some of the twists are pretty obvious, like if you can't figure out that a slick-talking senator who seems to be whiter than white might actually be hiding a dark secret, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Maybe films aren't for you. On the casting side of things, it's nice to see Joe Pantoliano back, even if it's just in flashback video form, although I'm not entirely sure it was necessary to bring his character back into the story just for some retroactive mystery. Maybe you shouldn't have killed him off in the first place, eh? Smith and Lawrence slip back into their familiar characters like a pair of well-worn hiking boots. I mean shit, if you've been playing the same characters for almost 30 years, the muscle memory probably kicks in after a while. The only difference this time around is that their roles kind of get reversed after Marcus suffers a near fatal heart attack and believes that he can't die because it isn't his time yet or something, while Mike starts suffering from panic attacks as the pressure gets to him. So basically this time around, Martin Lawrence gets to be the crazy, freewheeling risk taker, while Will Smith is more cautious and level-headed. Both of them are still on good form considering they're hurtling towards 60, but it might have been good for the script to lean into their age a little more and acknowledge that yes, they're getting pretty old for this action stuff now. Maybe show Mike struggling to keep up with his much younger and fitter son or something. I get the impression they don't want you thinking about that kind of thing too much though, and just want you to see it as another adventure, but whatever. Oh, and in case you were wondering, there's a little nod to Smith's antics at the Oscars a couple of years ago that I think shows the guy's not above a bit of self-deprecating humour. there. The star of the film though has got to be Reggie for me. I love how he's gone from being some gormless dork getting lambasted by Mike to an absolute badass taking down a dozen armed men all by himself. The directing and action scenes are top notch, managing to retain the look and feel of the Michael Bay films but injecting a bit of much needed modern flair and imagination. And thank fuck, the film seems to make extensive use of practical effects for the action sequences. Oh, how I've missed squibs and pyrotechnics in my movies. Most people have probably seen the behind the scenes footage doing the rounds on social media, and I think it's a testament to the work of directors Adil and Bilal that they're able to keep the fourth movie in a 30-year-old franchise feeling fresh and interesting. After the embarrassing shit canon of Batgirl, which entirely wasn't their fault, it's nice to see these guys get the redemption they deserve. Ultimately, Bad Boys Ride or Die feels like the ideal antidote to a lot of the crap being churned out this year. A simple, fun, undemanding action movie with a pair of likeable leads doing what they do best, and a surprising amount of care and creativity put into it. I don't know how many more adventures the Bad Boys can go on at this point, but if this turns out to be their last ride, then I think it's a pretty decent send-off for them. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.